Okay, hello everyone. My name is Michael Powell and I'm here with Pyth Network. And today I am going to tell you that DeFi sucks. Probably a tough pill to swallow, I know. But we're going to spend most of this week talking about how awesome DeFi is, and you're going to hear everyone gush about it. But I wanted to bring us back down to earth a little bit. So we have to understand, though, DeFi sucks compared to what? So we're going to talk about DeFi versus TradFi. And we're going to specifically focus on the lens of infrastructure. And when I'm talking about infrastructure, it really boils down to three things: cost, speed, and trust. So if you look at TradFi, you probably can think of a lot of company names here. Three of them up on the screen that you see. When you think of cost, trust, and speed, you can trade on these platforms with no fees nearly instantaneously. And yes, they are centralized organizations, but they've established a level of trust that is generally acceptable for mainstream audiences. And when we compare that to the current state of DeFi today, you take your average DeFi application and you think about cost, trust, and speed. Well, we all love transaction fees and gas fees, right? It's certainly not free. The trust levels are low. You're probably looking at CoinMarketCap, CoinGecko, trying to pinpoint and triangulate what the price actually is. And of course, it's not instantaneous. We all know that. So what do we need to do to get from A to B, right? That's what Pyth is all about. We're all about closing the gap between DeFi and TradFi. And you can see there's this middle layer here where it's powered by Pyth. You can see a few of our favorite applications here, not that we play favorites. But when it comes to cost, trust, and speed, you can see we have some improvements here. So, of course, it's not free, not quite yet, but we are getting closer and closer. In terms of trust, applications are able to source real-time market data directly from financial institutions. And lastly, on speed, the latency is improved over your average DeFi application, which we will touch on in a bit. So as you can see, though, even though trust is exceeding where we're at in TradFi, we know that's not enough for mainstream adoption. We can't just be better in one of these three areas. We firmly believe that we have to be at parity or better across all three of them in order to see mainstream adoption. So what's actually preventing us from getting there? And again, you're going to be sick of me saying this by the end of this talk, but it's infrastructure. So let's take a quick example. And we can go through Amazon versus the old Sears catalog. Many of you probably too young to remember what the Sears catalog is, but you would get it about every quarter in the mail. You could see 10 products per page, would take about 1 second to turn the page. You had to call the phone number if you wanted the cool toy on the screen, right? And then, of course, Amazon came along. But it wasn't an overnight success. The adoption didn't happen immediately. We don't need to go through all the numbers on the screen here, but you can see we're going from kilobits to megabits to gigabits, right? And you can see the adoption curve, especially around 2005, really start to take off. And why? That's because that 10 products per page mark was exceeded. You were able to actually go on Amazon for free, no cost, and you were able to see hundreds of products, and it would load almost instantaneously, right? So these three elements, really, the only thing I want you to take away from this slide is that it's infrastructure that fuels adoption. But of course, it's not just speed and cost. There's also trust. We don't need to dive into this too much. You all probably know this story very well now, but blockchain introduces a whole new concept of trust at scale, right? It's deterministic, it's permissionless. There's no longer this handshake agreement. You're no longer ordering a PS5 on eBay and having someone send you a box full of bricks, right? But let's actually put some benchmarks to it when it comes to cost and speed. So Charles Schwab, again, you're probably familiar with Charles Schwab. And when it comes to speed and cost, they offer 300 millisecond latency, and it's free, right? So if we understand those are the benchmarks we need to get to see mainstream adoption, let's look at the adoption of DeFi, and specifically crypto wallets, right? Starting on Ethereum in the beautiful DeFi summer days, really powered by Chainlink. We had 12-second block times. The Oracle would update every 24 hours or every 50 bips, and it could cost up to $5 a transaction, depending on network congestion. And then 2021, massive innovation with Solana, and we were able to get those numbers down significantly, right? From 12 seconds to 400 milliseconds, and the cost was a fraction of a cent. And then, of course, we're going all the way through to EVMs. This became kind of table stakes across the L2 world. And you can see we weren't able to get quite the same Solana performance, although we could on the Pyth side with the Oracle. And the cost was also, again, at an acceptable rate. So again, that theme of infrastructure fueling adoption. And that's really what Pyth is all about, right? We are about supercharging DeFi infrastructure so that DeFi can compete with TradFi. And it comes down to these three elements: trust, speed, and cost. And now I'm going to walk you through three things that Pyth is doing to actually materially improve DeFi across these three areas. The first is Pyth's bread and butter, our price feed data. Right, so we actually source price feed data directly from all of these major financial institutions and connect them to applications in real time. There's no scraping Yahoo Finance. There's no going to CoinMarketCap or setting up a node and having to expand it to a new chain. It's all directly sourced and available on all 77 blockchains that Pyth is available on. Not only do we publish a price feed, but is actually a confidence interval published alongside it as well. So I want to go back to these three things here as well. When it comes to Pyth price feeds, cost, fraction of a cent. Again, very, very cheap. Trust, sourced from financial institutions, and speed, 400 milliseconds. We're not quite at that 300 mark where Charles Schwab is, but we're getting closer by the day. The next thing I want to touch on, Pyth entropy. Pyth entropy is our on-chain verifiably random number generator. It's a bit of a mouthful, but you can see here through kind of the classic cryptography approach of commit, reveal, both parties submit a hash, then there's the reverse hash that occurs to actually produce a cryptographically secure random number. We're seeing that being used across a lot of cool applications, specifically in the GambleFi and the GameFi space. And we've seen some really fun stuff, especially with Blast the balloon there as well. And you can see really how easy it is to integrate on the code side. Of course, we're going to bring it back to the major theme with entropy, cost. Right, 5 cents an update, and it's getting cheaper. Trust, it is cryptographically secure, and we can prove it. And finally, speed, this is actually as quick as 50 milliseconds per update. So it can keep up with any game that's trying to create a random number at that pace. And our newest addition to our product suite, Express Relay, what we affectionately call our MEV killer. So for those of you familiar with MEV, miner extractable value, it occurs when a protocol or a smart contract presents a valuable opportunity. Let's call it a liquidation opportunity. And the protocol has to offer a 10% bonus or a 5% bonus on that to incentivize someone to come in and pick up that collateral, right? Well, the miner actually has the ability to prioritize those transactions based on who's going to give them the most amount of money, right? So people can bid on it, and then ultimately they're extracting value from the protocol who's actually creating the opportunity. Express Relay removes the miners and the validators from that equation and connects protocols directly to a very well-known group of searchers. You don't have to spend time setting up a searcher network or worrying about they're going to be proper liquidity on my platform. So that's actually returning value to the protocols themselves. And we're going to go back here as well. So cost, returning money back to the protocols, right? The miners are no longer able to extract it. It connects the protocols directly with the searchers. Trust, a very well-established group of searcher networks ready to plug into any protocol at any time. And speed, it's actually cutting the miner out of the process, who is then prioritizing and sequencing those transactions, which makes the overall process faster. Perfect, then just a couple of slides about how Pyth is actually doing, right? So we're working on cost, speed, and trust. We're working on supercharging infrastructure. How are things going? Well, if you look at the number of derivative protocols that exist today, Pyth actually powers 60% of them. And that number continues to grow. We're seeing new protocols choose Pyth over any other Oracle provider in the space. And again, that's part of our goal. So that's been great to see. Let's double click into those numbers a little bit here, right? And many of you who are familiar with the Oracle space may typically see oracles assessed by TVS, total value secured, TVL, total value locked, but that's actually not congruent with the Oracle business model, right? Oracles are actually compensated based on the number of transactions that they power. So as you'll see here across DeFi and CeFi, when it comes to total transaction volume in the crypto derivative space, Pyth-powered DEXs actually power more transaction volume cumulatively than everyone else in the space, and more than Coinbase. So this is something that when you look at, again, TVS or TVL, you think about Aave and Compound, there's a lot of money sitting stagnant in those. We kind of like to say, would you rather be powering a bank account or a trading platform? And Pyth is powering the trading platforms. Some of the other people are powering some of the bank accounts. Perfect. So to bring it all back, Pyth is never going to stop working. We are never going to stop improving to ensure that DeFi doesn't suck. We're not quite there yet, but we're getting closer every single day. Thank you for your time.